Something big about to happen. Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, watching the videos all the way to the end. If you've donated money to the channel through the super thanks, buy me a coffee, Venmo, it's all greatly, greatly appreciated. And a huge thank you. So I have kind of this uncomfortable feeling that something's going to happen. It could just be the lunar eclipse that's going to be this Sunday, but I don't think so. I think it's bigger than this. Just for context, if you're newer to the channel, I've had this feeling the weekend that the Pope died, the weekend that Biden got diagnosed with cancer, or at least became public, the National Guard being deployed in DC uh, as well. So usually I kind of have an inkling. I have some ideas here of what could be going on, but I'm going to be very careful about the way I word things when we get to that part. So let's start with some obvious places to start. Let's look at some weather. Let's look at earthquakes and volcanoes. We'll look at Epstein related stuff. We'll look at the felon's health, and then the one that I really want to look at. Um, and I talked about this in the 2025 predictions, and I don't know that it happens this weekend, but I feel like the events were set into motion this weekend, and that is going to be a public figure deciding to exit the planet on their own terms. Um, that's the one that is nagging at me a little bit. So we'll look at that. But let's start with Epstein, and we'll just kind of work our way down the list. So, is there going to be any new Epstein revelations this weekend? Of course, we had, Republicans talking about uh, censoring all Republican names and only putting out Democrat names. It's not going to work, so that doesn't bother me. It's just not. The U.S. government is not the only one that has the Epstein files. Republicans can think that if they want, but it's just not the case. So I do worry about some, like a new accuser coming forward, perhaps. I guess I don't worry about that, but I worry about harm happening to people that are coming forward, is what I meant to say. Okay, it does feel like there might be some new information here coming out. Now, I think this is just going to continue to drip, drip, drip for quite a while. Yeah, there's some anxiety here. The Nine of Swords, or I'm sorry, the Eight of Swords. There's anxiety, but also this, feeling of being trapped. Um, could be an accuser thinking about coming forward. Uh, we get the Queen of Swords, someone who's holding the truth, has a consistent story. It's probably backed up really well with contemporaneous storytelling to other people at the time. And we get the magician. This person holds all the goods, that's for sure. Don't know that they come forward though. We get the Nine of Cups, wish fulfillment, but it kind of feels like this person might choose to stay silent, and they have every right to do that. Certainly not going to tell people they don't. Uh, the Six of Wands, victory. Maybe they're trying to time this right. So then we get the Eight of Wands, things happening quite quickly. I don't think this is going to be like a media event. If it's done, I think it's done through the courts. Um, and the Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving of information, and the Seven of Cups, illusion and delusion. I think this person is actually very grounded in reality and realizes that, there's a great portion of the country that's not going to believe anything. Um, and we get the Star card of protection. So I think she's keeping herself safe um, in the ways that are best for her. But I do think there's somebody out there that does eventually come forward. But right now, it's not the time. But there will be a time where it will have a very meaningful impact, uh, and it'll be a safer time. This feels like it's after the felon's gone, but and I don't know that this particular accuser is going to accuse the felon of anything either. But lots of information about people, um, very powerful people. I think there are contemporaneous stories that she's told people over the years that would back this up, along with like maybe she's had some documents either like sealed in an envelope and mailed to somebody that says do not open or something like that. Um, some sort of like way to prove that this wasn't just yesterday, but years and years ago. She holds the cards and she'll come forward when the time is right for her. Because right now, I think she's under no illusion that this probably isn't quite the right timing. But when she does, it's like the whole thing's out of the bag, right? And I don't think this involves the felon. Now, I think the Epstein stuff involves the felon for sure, but I think this particular person, it doesn't, but it involves some very powerful people whose names we have heard. Um, get the Knight of Pentacles messages coming forward and the Knight of Swords. So, yeah. So there might be some new information on the Epstein front this weekend, but I don't think that's the big story, although it could be. Now, weather and earthquakes and volcanoes, these worry me quite a bit. I think there's already some forecasted severe weather for Friday um, evening. I'm recording this late on Saturday afternoon. I'm sorry, I said Saturday, I meant Thursday. I'm recording this on Thursday, and I'll release it on Friday morning. So, what do we need to know about extreme weather this weekend? I think definitely be careful. Getting an image of one of those hand cranked radios. If you have one, it might not be a bad idea to know where it's at. If you live in an area that's prone to severe weather. Uh, with the King of Pentacles, um, that's my card for the felon, of course, but really it almost symbolizes the idiocy that the United States is going through right now, especially when it comes to climate policies, which is really affecting the weather. And we get the Magician as well. It's like everything's stirring. It's like, you know, I think there's some great potential for some flooding and tornadoes in the United States, especially in the um, kind of the usual region. middle part to the south part of the United States. Um, yeah, it's we get judgment. But judgment's about, the angels blowing the horn to wake the dead. I think the plan has been trying to wake us up for quite a while. We're just not listening. Now, some of us are, but then again, um, the people making policy are the ones that are the only ones that really can lead significant change. Uh, the star card of protection. In the end, everything will work out. It'll just be different. It won't be exactly the same. Um, the Queen of Swords consistency. I do worry about how well the weather forecasting system is in the United States and some of the funding cuts. And we get the King of Cups, just my card for the Democrats, but really I'm just drawn to the water at the feet of the card here. Um, do you think we're going to have some pretty heavy rains? Then Nine of Wands. Uh, if you have the ability, put up take some precautions. Nothing major. I mean, I don't think we're talking about. I think we're talking about some power outages, right? Having some water on hand, that kind of stuff would be good. But I don't think. Yeah, circles of support around money, and then the devil. Yeah, toxicity. There's going to be some bad weather, particularly in the United States, but not just the United States. Also, it feels like a little bit of maybe parts of China and India as well. Mostly the northern hemisphere is what I'm getting, but anyhow, this lack of acknowledging climate policy is leading to a lack of consistency in the weather, less lack of predictability, and it's bringing us to this place to where it's like almost we pushed the planet to a point of toxicity, to where there really isn't a heading back, but the planet will be here. It just won't be the same, right? Which is not good. um I think eventually we do put up guardrails, by the way. I don't think things turn out to be completely horrible, but it's definitely going to be some growing pains over the next 150 years. um the planet is just trying to wake us up. Like it's screaming out loud with all of these horrible weather events. The magician stirs things up. That's what's going on in the atmosphere right now. I do think for the most part we're protected. I don't think there's like a bunch of loss of human life or anything this weekend. I hope I'm right on that front. I do think there's a lot of water in terms of rainfall and flooding, and probably some tornadoes. And then the Three of Pentacles, I think that's in all of these events, the communities come together. They just do. There's deceit and deception, and then loss of property. So I think the deceit is the cutting of the funding to the weather forecasting system, so that we might have known more at the time if we hadn't done that than we do now. And I do think there's probably some loss of property, but it doesn't feel like that's the big thing. Okay, earthquakes and volcanoes. What do we need to know about those? Hmm. There's going to be some minor earthquakes this weekend, but I don't pick up on anything big. Volcanoes. I mean, I think there's already some volcanic activity going on, but I don't pick up on anything there per se either. Let's see what the cards say. Yeah, no, I mean the Ten of Pentacles. I think, which is about inheritance, and then the Five of Wands. I think, there is some rumbling with the plates in the earth. I do think we'll see some small earthquakes, but nothing big. I do think there's a bigger one later this month, though, that happens under the ocean, very similar to the one that happened um, under the ocean near Russia that led to the tsunami warnings. I think that happens again, but this time it's like more towards the Indian Ocean. The Page of Pentacles. We'll hear about some things for sure, and then the Ace of Swords. I think the scientists are worried about more than we know about. The Eight of Wands at the center of the reading. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bunch of volcanic activity in the near future. And by near future, I mean, the next year or two. That I've always kind of seen. I don't think it happens this year. We do get the Hierophant. So this like things that are out of control or out of our hands, we can't really control them. The moon card, things coming to the surface, such as the lava coming up from a volcano. We might see a minor volcanic eruption. Giving and receiving of information, Six of Pentacles, and then the Knight of Cups, messages coming forward. So, I think there's reasons to be concerned. All the signs are sort of pointing to there being this event. I think if you were to talk to the geologists and the seismologists and the people that study volcanoes, um, I think they're probably concerned with some things that they're picking up on that have just started this year. I do think it's a potential for a possible volcanic eruption um this weekend as well. Uh, you know, and it probably won't make the news like super big headlines because I think it's probably in a fairly remote place and doesn't involve humans. But the Earth's definitely going to rumble, I think, this weekend. Uh, I think scientists are getting really close to being able to predict this stuff better. They're not there yet, but they're exchanging a lot of information, and ultimately, this is out of our control. So, could there be a volcanic eruption this weekend? Could be. Definitely things going on behind the scenes that we can't see with regards to this. Okay, so this brings me to the two things that I do think are more likely to be the big stories from the weekend. So let's start with I had this odd feeling that something was set into motion this week that might lead to someone choosing to exit the planet um, on their own terms, who's a fairly beloved figure. And it will be almost inexplicable because I certainly am not going to name names here because I don't want I'm just not going to do that, I guess. But I definitely have one person in mind in particular. I don't think it happens this weekend, but I think the things were set into motion this weekend, or this week into this weekend. I think it happens this year, possibly even the beginning part of next week. Um, so what do we need to know about this now? Obviously, if you're struggling with your mental health, please do get help. I think 988 is the number to call or text. Something's off here. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I'm fairly sure I'm not. Uh, yeah, something will be set forward, some sort of uh there were warning signs, let's put it this way. It does feel like there's not really much intervention that could be done here. Um, because the people around this person don't think anything's wrong, and I think this person probably could fool some health professionals too. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. Hmm. I think sometimes things aren't as they appear. You know, the expression money doesn't buy happiness is very true. Um, think of all of the um, unalivings that people have done to themselves over the years that are quite well off, even if by accidental drug overdose, right? It's like, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Kurt Cobain, Kate Spade. Um, that's really not the key here. Do you think people, yeah, let me just keep going. I do think that this, in the end, it does kind of resonate with people. People are going to start off with the usual tropes of this person had everything they possibly could want. But it doesn't really work that way. You know, sometimes we're just not, sometimes people just aren't happy or content or uh, they don't get the point or, and, we all kind of go through phases of this in life, but um, this is, and then, families, reunion celebrations, the Ten of Cups. That's not enough either for some people, right? It doesn't get to whatever this, we call it an illness, and I think that's fair. Um, whatever this that causes people to go through with this act. Family can't stop it. Most of the time, doctors can't stop it either. Um, I'm a firm believer in medicine, by the way, so don't think otherwise. It just feels like, yeah, it's an illness, the Four Swords, that just can't be there. I'm gonna kind of leave that at that. So hopefully I'm just wrong, but I do feel like we'll probably something was set in motion this week, is what it feels like. I don't think it happens this weekend, but I think we might get some news about it, and then it happens later this year or possibly next week. Hopefully I'm wrong. Okay, let's look at the felon's health because it could be that too. Um, so do we need to know about the felon's health just this weekend? We know it's going to happen in the long term, but just this weekend, what do we need to know? Clearly, he's going off the mental guardrails are just way off. I do think he'll be fairly hidden again. Very staged public appearances with select members of the media. You need to know about the film. Well, here he is in his own reading, so this is good. The cards are I feel pretty on point today. So um here he is acting a fool. Do you get bombshells and surprises in the environment around? And again, the Eight of Pentacles. This kept popping up over the last several health readings. It's like one plan doesn't work, try another. They just at this point they're just guessing to try to keep him stable. And I know, on the some people say on the front, public facing, he doesn't really look that bad. That's not what I see. I mean, I don't know what you all see, but um his energy is has gotten slower and slower and slower. Definitely had this ADHD tennis ball type of bouncing back and forth between walls type of feeling. And now it's more like the ball's moving back and forth and bouncing off, but it's moving through, like a maple syrup or something like of that thickness, like not super thick, like real maple syrup, not the um, pancake syrup. It's not super thick, but things are definitely slowing down in his brain. But the Five of Swords, something did happen last weekend. Whether he had a minor stroke, I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely was a big health setback last weekend. Uh, you get the Hermit card at the center of the reading. This is them keeping him isolated. Um, they have a lot of anxiety around what he may or may not do. Every time the Ace of Wands, it's just like my card for Vance now, right? It's fiery new leadership, but it's like then something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, which we do know about. We just don't know what it is. We do know there's something behind the scenes. And then the Lovers card, unlikely partnership. So here he is. They're keeping him isolated and alone. They might be bringing in a new doctor to evaluate him. That wouldn't be surprising. Uh, the new leadership is ready to step in. Here he is. They're keeping him isolated, and they're working on plan C, D, E, F, G, whatever it is at this point. Something did happen the last weekend that uh, very much was a big medical setback. When all of this gets revealed, we're going to be just utterly shocked by the things that we didn't know. And, things going on behind the scenes and a lot of anxiety um, as well. Curious what's underneath here. The world card, the end of the cycle, right? Completion. It's kind of funny. The death card, obviously has the word death in it. So we think of that as being the big death card, but the world card in the health context really is probably the bigger death card, right? Because it's completion. It's like the end of the life cycle. Um, and the Nine of Pentacles, he's got a good healthcare team. We've talked about that. The things that he has done with the Chariot card, which is about trafficking, um, those make the body age in weird ways. And then the Ten of Pentacles, thinking about his inheritance. And yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for the weather this weekend. Just be careful. I don't see anything too horrible. Hopefully, what I think is going to happen doesn't happen, but we'll see. The felon's health, something's probably going to happen this weekend because I think that this happens every weekend at this point. Whether we find out about it, it's a different story. I do think eventually there's a big expose about it. Um, yeah. So anyhow, I'll be back with another video soon. Thank you.